This Friday, the final episode of Season 1 of The Mighty Ducks Game Changers debuted, so let's talk about the whole season. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what did you think about Season 1 of The Mighty Ducks Game Changers? As a little bit of a point of reference, I grew up on the original 2 films, not really the third one quite so much, but I was like the perfect age when the original film came out to be there in the theater, likewise with the second movie, and I own the soundtrack for it. So I have a lot of nostalgia for the first 2 Mighty Ducks films, and jump forward, 26, 27 years later, I now have a pair of children that are the appropriate age to check out the Mighty Ducks Game Changers. I have a third kid. She's just too young to appreciate a show like this. And so actually, throughout the entire run of this show, my daughter and I would wake up at 6 in the morning on Friday so that we could watch the new episode before she had to go to school that day. And it was a nice little tradition for what our family was doing while watching this particular show. That's my point of reference for checking this one out as someone that grew up on the original and now as a parent is watching the new show with my daughter as kind of a family tradition. From there, let's start talking about the show and the good. And let's get right to it. I thoroughly enjoyed this show. I thought it was a nice return to the vibe, the energy of the original couple of films. Sure, almost 30 years have passed, so there's adjustments to the humor. Obviously, it's TV versus movies, so the storytelling is stretched out a lot more and going into more details, more subplots. Of course, all that stuff is taking place. Not all of it is designed for me as a person that's almost 40 years old. But as someone watching a show with my daughter, it absolutely delivered the experience that I wanted while also tugging on just the right amount of nostalgia strings, tugged at my heart in just the right ways with all those nostalgia buttons. There's a couple things that I think that kind of worked well for the show. One of them is that it split the focus on kids and adults nicely. In that, of course, you have the team itself, the Don't Bothers, with this batch of quirky, weird kids that each have some thing about them that's amusing, their own little story journey that they have. And, you know, as the guy that's almost 40, I'm not quite as invested in 14, 13-year-old politics as I might have been back in the day. But several of them were quite a bit of fun to watch out. And I would think it's Nick, the best friend, is one of the big standouts here that's just such a cute and charming kid in his analysis of things and self-depreciating sense of humor without it feeling like he's beating himself up at all. Like he doesn't care about the negative things he's saying about himself. So it's just a nice little addition. But for me, I probably resonated more with the adult plot lines as I am an adult now. And there's 2 aspects to it that kind of work. One of them was the returning Gordon Bombay, who he's quite different than he was before because he's in such a wildly different place in life, that he fully embraced kind of this hockey life, and he went down some paths he shouldn't go down, got burned in some ways, that he's just kind of a loner now, but he still kind of has a certain chipper vibe to him, that even when he was most cynical this season, there was still something about him that was kind of fun. And you could tell there was someone in there that wanted to be helpful and embrace hockey once again. And then as you kind of go throughout the season and you see the old version of Gordon Bombay starting to come out a little bit more and liven up and wanting to help, and the little things he does with the team itself and helping them, or even in getting involved in their personal lives just a little bit, that kind of hit the right notes for me. And the other one in there is Evan's mom, played by Lauren Graham. I watched all of Gilmore Girls. I've actually watched through all of it, 2 or 3 times now. And so she's just a lot of fun to watch on screen. So I guess she's been typecast forever as the single mom of a teenager. She's literally been playing that role for 20 years now. So what's funny to me is that it feels like the role of her character really should have been played by someone my age or someone Alexis Bledell's age. Alexis Bledell played her daughter on Gilmore Girls, and she's my age. So she would be appropriate age to have a child Evan's age. but they wanted to have a little bit of this romance with Emilio Estevez. They realized, he's like 60. We probably need to have someone older than that in this role. So suddenly they cast a lady in her 60s playing the mother of someone. It's possible. It's not totally outside of the realm of possibility, but it seems like they did that for the purpose of to have the chemistry with Emilio. But I enjoy seeing her on the show, regardless of whether they were, making it older than she probably should have been for the show. And but just in general, I dug that. I thought it did a nice job of finding a way to tell a Mighty Ducks type story over the span of 10 episodes. And so you get a couple episodes where you kind of go into the interpersonal dynamics of the team and their family situations, school situations, the little kind of drama that happens with people. But we also have some episodes dedicated to Lauren Graham's character and what goes on at her work. And there's a kind of a whole subplot with that, as well as with her ex. So kind of found a way to really develop things a little bit more, because obviously you have more time and you can pause to go deep for an episode. And it was also a nice little touch when they were able to bring the Mighty Ducks back in, the old original Mighty Ducks back into it. What was actually probably one of the weaker episodes of the season, but getting to see them was nice. They had a lot of issues with the because of COVID, that you couldn't just have someone fly in for 2 days to shoot some scenes. So then they had to revise their whole plan for the season, because it was going to be more of people showing up throughout the whole season. The showrunner did a whole piece about this, interview about it, and they were going to have people showing up all throughout the season in little ways at appropriate times, but because of COVID, you had to quarantine for 2 weeks before you could go on set, and then you have to film, and then to return. So people basically had to be able to block out a month of their life. The OG people need to block out a month of their life to be able to appear on the show at all. And not all of them can set life aside for a month to appear on it. And that's why it was all condensed into the one episode. And so I think it felt a little bit forced, but it was nice to see them, nice kind of callback, and try to squish a lot of plot into one small episode. But it was nice to see them. And then as you're approaching the finale, and I don't want to go into just in case you haven't seen it, but they found a way that you didn't want it to be the most obvious version of what could play out with all of this. How do you have victory, loss, tension? How do you still have room for if you have second season? How do you save some stuff for later on? And I thought they found a really nice way to be able to have victory without it being the most obvious of victories. And in another sense, way more satisfying. With where the season actually ends, with what actually happens, it's not the most obvious path, but it's an even bigger win in another sense. And if you've seen the episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. As the scenarios start getting set up, you're like, oh, okay. And just paid off really well for the characters, for the arc of really what the show is about. And so just in general, week to week, I had a lot of fun waking up early with my daughter to watch it. And then my wife wouldn't wake up to watch it. So I didn't rewatch most of the episodes later in the day, watched them 2 times every Friday. And it was a very satisfying experience. And I think that they did a really good job continuing the show many years later. From there, let's kind of move on to the bad. I don't want to linger on this too much because I did have fun with it. I didn't think the Evan character was particularly compelling. He felt more like he was designed to be a bit of a plot device. Like he gets cut, therefore his mom has to do this. He's tempted to go back, therefore there's tension on the team. And I know he just didn't have that, whereas the other members of the team seemed to have a little bit more spark to them. Maybe he was just intentionally written to just be kind of like the totally average guy on the team that's the center of it all, the glue, that he's the one that pulls it all together. But compared to these other characters, they just seemed a little bit more lively. He just didn't have that spark. And because of the way he's used, other times he came off a little bit whiny. And so Evan, I unfortunately wasn't the biggest fan of Evan on the show. Likewise, as I mentioned before, the actual episode where the Mighty Ducks returned was kind of, the original Mighty Ducks, was awkward. The actual plot of it and what takes place involving an award show and the way that they try and make things right was like, that doesn't work. If they did a scenario in the episode involving this award ceremony, that if it was kids doing it, kids do obnoxious things, but because the original Mighty Ducks who are a few years older than me, or thus in their 40s, doing what they do in this at this award show. Adults doing that, it's not okay. It's just not acceptable behavior. So I thought that was actually maybe the weakest episode of the entire season, while at the same time pulling all the right nostalgia strings, and I'm glad they did it. But as for the writing itself, maybe the weakest. The final episode should have been 2 episodes. And if you've seen the episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The first half of what goes on, that's an episode's worth of stuff right there. But because of what they did, they had to montage through so much of this tournament and then just very quickly get to the conflict of the episode. And then the second bit in and of itself could have been an episode, and we would have maybe a little bit more epilogues for the characters, a little bit more of a send-off, like where are they at? So not where are they at, I don't want to overdo that. But trying to do all of that in one episode and ending the season, I think there was easily 2 episodes worth of stuff, and 2 episodes worth of good stuff. 2 episodes worth of stuff that paid off really nicely. And in particular, where our next to last episode was kind of like the calm before the storm. Let's do one more batch of drama thrown into it. Maybe combined the first half of the last episode with that one a little bit. Do something like that. I think you could have balanced, shrink that one down, the plot on that one, expand the plot of the first half of the last episode, and then dedicate a whole episode to the second half. And I think it would have balanced that out a little bit. But in general, I think there were some things like that with the season, of the balancing of the plot lines, the arc of where they start to where they end up, where they delegated time. I think in retrospect, they might have should have shifted that around a little bit. And I wonder how much this show was. Their shooting schedule was absolutely affected by COVID showing up, and I wonder if that kind of had to change their plan for what they were trying to do on some of this, and they had limited access to some places and had to rush a few things because of that. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me a little bit if they had to last minute reshuffle the balance of the season. Anyway, join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what did you think about this season? Are you a teenager that didn't grow up necessarily with Mighty Ducks? You're kind of new to the show. Are you a grown-up like me? Let me know all that fun stuff and what you thought about the show. As for me, watching it with my daughter was a very enjoyable situation that if you're someone my age wondering, will it kind of do the right nostalgia stuff? I think it will. Keep in mind, of course, you're watching a Disney show designed for 12-year-olds. So if you're watching it there's some of that in there. Some of the humor's changed. Some of it's dated, or not dated, anti-dated. It's very current, and we are dated. So if you're a full grown-up watching, you'd be like, oh, this cringy Disney humor or whatever. But that's the case for anything that's targeted towards 12-year-olds. It's designed for people that have a different sense of humor than me. So I got what I wanted out of it. I had fun with it, and it's just like a sports show. I thought it kind of hit the right notes, had the right arcs. Absolutely worked for me. So there you have it. That's my take on it. Tell me what you thought down below. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much.